This is Gemara and Eruvin Daf Mem Daled. The learning for this week, the week of the Teres Tshuva, has been sponsored as a chos for Shlema for Yisrael Chaim ben Yehudis. As well, tomorrow's daf is sponsored as a chos for Shlema for Shana Bas Yocheved. When this daf will be heard, Mir Tashem, she will be undergoing surgery. The surgery should be successful. Of course, all our Chelim Yidamer ben Yikir men of Mei Chaim Ramchan Ida Chaim and Seir Shalom Simon Yizil Sar Paskina Tvasim Chai Seir Chaim and Seir Esna Yisrael Memindol. He had to present the Shavlei Shem Vas Melu Shavai Mshir Chadav Aldavin Yitriva. Daniel ben Chan Rizal Chaim Nachman ben Mindol B'Seir Shar Chali Yisrael. So we pick it up on the bottom of Mem Gimel Amud Beis. First of all, an apology. I'm sorry. Yesterday's daf, there were audio issues. Thank you all for those who reached out. It was fixed, and just a reminder again, sometimes the fixes take a little bit of time. It was fixed, but it seems that the app of the Turning Time app did not update as quickly as the website. So just a reminder that if there's ever an issue, please feel free to reach out. But as things get fixed, usually YouTube, as always, gets fixed a little faster, and the podcast. And Turning Time sometimes is a drop slower, but Baruch Hashem, it's the place that we all get to learn together, so no complaints. Let's pick it up from the bottom of Mem Gimel Amud Beis. We're holding about 10 lines to the bottom. Nechemya brei derav chinilai mishkachte shemaitzam. He was in the middle of learning, and it's not the first time that we saw this. He's in the middle of learning, thinking and learning, and what happened? He's just strolling along, and he just walks out of the tzchum. You know, some people call it an absent-minded professor, or some people really are so involved in their learning that it happens to them. And he went chutz l'tzchum. Amarli Rav Chisda Rav Nachman. So Rav Chisda told Rav Nachman, Nechemya Talmidcha, Nechemya your Talmid Shari B'tzar. He's in Tzar. He's outside of the tzchum. Meaning only gets Daled Amos right now. He can't come back home. So Amar Loi, so Rav Nachman responded, what should we do? Asu Loi Mechitza Shal B'nei Adam, a concept that we have not seen yet. I don't remember I don't even think we saw it in Gemara and Shabbos. There's a concept, actually we did for sure, there's a concept that you can make a Mechitza of people. We're going to see the parameters of this rule today, and we're going to see how it's not always so feasible. But what's going on over here is you take people, surround him with people, and then he's basically in an enclosed area because he has walls all around him of the people, and then he's allowed to walk via kanes that he can come back into the chum. Obviously, Rashi points out, and what's obvious here is that the other people, how did they get there? So it must be that their tchum extended further. Again, this Talmud, his tchum extended till point X. He went outside of that point, and there's other people who are in that tchum. So tell those people to make a big circle of big walls surrounding him, and then he can walk, make two lines, and he can walk back into the town. So Yosef Nachman bar Yitzchak, Achari de Rava, he was sitting behind the Rava, Yosef Rava came into Rav Nachman, Amrli Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak le Rava. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak tells Rava, Maikam Ebayla de Rav Chisda. What are you asking? What was Rav Chisda asking? Ileima, meaning what exactly was the question? What was the discussion over here? Ileima, if the question was Midamali Gavra Askinan. Meaning, we're discussing over here is we got to get this guy back into the tchum. So what was the bothering point over here? What was the bothering point that Midalo Gavra Askinan? We're discussing a case where there were enough people. Meaning, we for sure had enough Talmidim to make these walls, these human walls. And what was the question? Hilchsek Rav Gamliel. Do we paskin like Rav Gamliel that when you come back in, you're going to get the entire area? Meaning that when you have an enclosure that is built on Shabbos, these people are by definition creating walls on Shabbos. Now you're going to be allowed to walk. Let's see the last Rashi over here. Lachik Rav Gamliel says Rashi, these are walls that you do not live in during the day. During the day on Friday, this guy was in the town. He then absentmindedly walks out. Build new, quote unquote, build new walls by people. That's one side of the coin. Meaning, is the question, do we pass like Rav Gamliel, which would allow you to create these walls in Shabbos and thereby allow you to create these walls made by humans, thereby walk back in? Or let's just see Rashi, and then we'll see it in the Gemara. That for sure we know we pass like Rav Gamliel. But the problem here is there weren't enough people. What's going on over here? Again, this Talmud Nechemya Nachmani absentmindedly walked out of the tchum. Let's say you walked, 100, let's use Amos, 100 Amos out of the tchum. Let's say each person you're with is, about an Am and a half. So how many people do you need? You need a lot of people to create these walls all the way around to let them walk all the way back in. So there were, I don't know, I'm not going to do the math right now, there were 200 people. Enough people to create walls that it's going to go all the way back in towards the Techum of the original city, but it's going to be short, just miss it, 2 amos short. It's going to be very close to the town, but it's going to be a little gap of 2 amos. So what's the question? Moving along to Mdalat Amud Aleph, today's daf. And now the Gemara speaks it out. Again, that was the first coin. Do we pass like Gamliel or not? You let it create walls in Shabbos and let it walk in them. Or perhaps we're dealing with you did not have enough people. And what's the question? Halacha Krav Eliezer. Does the halacha paskin like Rav Eliezer? Look at the top. Rashi tells you, as long as you're within 2 amos, you get a little leeway. We'll see exactly why soon in the Gemara. But you get a little leeway. Obviously, everyone can imagine it's something to do with the fact that every person has their own 4 amos. But you get a little bit of leeway, and therefore, even though the walls didn't go all the way back, you're within 2 amos. That's enough. That was the question posed. What was bothering you with regarding this case of creating these human walls to get this Talmud back into the town? Says the Gemara, Pshita b'deloi malu gavra eskinan. The case is they did not have enough people. Because if the case was that there were enough Talmidim to create all these human-made boundaries, askinan. Mighty Baile, what exactly would have your question been? Your question was, do you pass like Rav Gamliel? Ha'amar Rav halacha Rav Gamliel. Rav said, we paskin like Rav Gamliel, but Tirvas Harasfina. That we pass like Rav Gamliel, that even though you were not in these boundaries when Shabbos began, if you're subsequently plucked and dropped inside these boundaries, we paskin that you let to walk around in the whole boundary. So we know the psak is ready like Rav Gamliel. So that could not have been the question. Elavanda, says the Gemara 7 lines down. We're dealing with the case that there were not enough people. Again, there were enough people to make these visual walls up until, but not exactly to the city. A little bit short, 2 amos short. Udrav Eliezer kom yibayle. And we're asking in Rav Eliezer, this question is, do we pass like Rav Eliezer that's going to allow you to come back into the city when you're a little bit off to the end of the Tchum? Says the Gemara, Dekanami, I'll bring you a proof that the case is referring to that there were not enough people to create these invisible walls. From the fact that Rav Nachman said, create a mechita of people, v'yikones, and let him come in. My yikones, what's this word of yikones? Let him on in. Lav, my yikones, lav b'loy mechita. It means let him enter even though there's not a real mechita, just a human being. Mechita, I did hear an interesting diuk, that it is interesting, usually when the Gemara says dekanami, it brings a proof from a Mishnah of a Brisa. Here bring a proof from the wording of Rav Nachman. Definitely an interesting ha'ara. But says the Gemara, that was the question, do we pass like Rav Eliezer, that when you don't have enough people, you also have enough people to go close to the edge of the city, it's going to be enough. Says the Gemara, Isvei, about 10 lines down, Rav Nachman Yitzchak, l'Rava. Rav Nachman Yitzchak posed the following question to Rava. Nafel daifna. The wall of the sukkah fell down on Yantif. Lo yamid bay'adam. And we're going to see again today the wonderful siyat d'shmaya we have learned in the daf. Someone told me today that there's a term that they use, that I guess I missed it, it's called the Lubliner strikes again, referring to Rameir Shapiro, that the wonderful siyat d'shmaya that he had in setting up the Daf Yomi, and we'll see, we're here holding the Seres Meichuva, everyone starts preparing for Sukkot right around the corner, and we have a Gemara about Sukkot. And what's interesting is, we'll point out in a moment, a Rashi here in Eruvin Daf Mendalet, everyone will remember this in a week and a half when it comes to Sukkot time. Rashi tells us something here that does not appear in the whole Masechet Sukkah, a very important halacha with regard to Sukkah. But let's first see the Gemara. Says the Gemara, if the wall of the sukkah fall down, so now you don't have enough walls, seemingly, let's just envision right now, it's the third wall that fell down, you don't have enough walls, what should you do? You're not allowed to stand there, a person, an animal, or a kelim, in order to plug up that wall and create a wall in Yantif. Nor are you allowed to stand up a bed, and throw a sheet over that bed, which again would be creating the third wall. You're not allowed to create a temporary wall, a temporary canopy, something that we've seen extensively in the Gemara on Shabbos. You're not allowed to create it on Yantif and nor on Shabbos. So what's the question? The question of the Gemara is, if you can't create a temporary wall, a temporary boundary, a canopy on Yantif and Shabbos, why are you allowed to create this mechitza of people? Seemingly it should be the same thing. Just like you can't create a temporary canopy, you should not be allowed to create a temporary mechitza and have these people stand around to create the mechitza. Let's first finish the Gemara before we throw those important Rashis. Amar lei, at amar li meha. You asked me as a question from that brisa that seemingly said you're not allowed to plug up the wall with a person or with a bed or with an animal. And I, Rabbi, you know what I answer you? From the following. There's a different brisa that says you're allowed to tell your friend, stand there, please, be a wall for me for a moment. Kedei, for what? And these are actually important words that we're going to see in Rashi. Sheyoichal v'yishte v'yoshin. Says the Gemara in Sukkot, what do you got to do in your Sukkah? Eat, drink, and sleep. So says the Gemara, this brisa says you're allowed to tell your friend to stand there to be the last wall, or to stand up the bed, spread over a sheet, so that the chama, the sun, does not spoil the dead body or the food. And therefore he said, what are you asking me? You're asking me seemingly that you're not allowed to create a wall in Shabbos, you're not allowed to create a mechitza. I'm showing you clearly a different brisa that says you're allowed to create a wall, you're allowed to create a canopy, so it's not a question on me. Let's just finish reading up the sequence of the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Kasha Adadhi. Okay, now you got a steer. Good. It's not a question on me. But now you have a steer. What are you going to do? Says the Gemara, Loi Kasha, Harav Elazar, Harabanan. And now we'll pause for a moment. We'll come back to you in 1 minute how to answer up the stira. But just wanted to point out a very, very important Rashi. Rashi, about 7 lines into the narrow lines, Rashi says, Kidei sheyoichal v'yishte v'yashin. Says Rashi, Iker mitzvasa shal sukkah begimol dvar malolu. Which those are the words in Rashi that you can look through the entire Masechah Sukkah and you will not find. What is the ikr? What is the integral and the main mitzvah of sukkah? Eating, drinking, and sleeping. Of course, we know discussion nowadays very cold. You could sleep. It's dangerous. It's not dangerous. Okay, we're not getting involved in the practical halacha lamaisa, different minhagim perhaps. But again, the dry halacha it's brought down Shulchan Aruch, Tafresh Lamed Tes, brought down the Ramah, is that what? There's 3 integral ingredients to the sukkah: eating, drinking, and sleeping. It's not just a place that you have a meal in when you want to eat. It's supposed to become your home. We'll all remember this Rashi, Gemara in Eruvin, Daf Mem Daled Amud Aleph. Let's go back into the Gemara. So now, where are we holding the Gemara? We have a stira. We have 2 brises. One brisa says you're allowed to tell a person to create a wall for you on Shabbos. The other brisa says you're not allowed to tell the person, the animal, the bed, to be a wall for you on Shabbos. So the stira answers the Gemara like Kash, Rav Lazar, Rabban, it's Rav Lazar and Rabbanan, old friends, Rav Lazar and Rabbanan. It's not like we learned. As we'll see right now, everybody should hopefully be reminded of the following Mishnah. Pekaka chalon. Who could forget the pekaka chalon? Those window shutters, that window thing that you're plugging up a window. Complicated sugya. Rav Elazar Aimer was the opinion of Rav Elazar is manche kosher v'tolu. Shutter, you got this window pane, you got a window, these window panes used to come off. So when it is tied on and hanging, suspended in midair, that is when poikikim boy. That is when you're allowed to close it back up on Shabbos. V'im lavein poikikim boy. That is the shita of Rav Elazar. So we think right now in the Havamina that what's Rav Elazar teaching us? That you're allowed to create a wall on Shabbos. And if anyone is bothered knowing the maskana, the answer of the Gemara, don't be bothered. The Gemara is going to get there in a moment. No, whether it's tied, whether it's not tied, you're allowed to shtup it up. You're allowed to close up the wall. Well, it's Marallah. And we learned on it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't jump the gun and say which she tells which. Again, Machlaikis Rav Elazar and Rabbanan. Chachamim say you're always allowed to take this window pane and put up in the window. And Rav Elazar says only if it's tied and hanging. It's Marallah. We learned on it. Amar Rabba, Bar Bar Chana, Amar Rav Yochanan. Hakol Maidim. Everyone agrees. I'm sorry. This is the Gemara's answer. Let's see. Rashi. Rashi says. So seemingly, what is the machlokes between Rav Elazar and the Chachamim is whether you're allowed to close it up. I think I said the names wrong. Let's say it right this time. The Chachamim hold you're always allowed to close it up. You're allowed to create this wall on Shabbos. Rav Elazar said no, you're not allowed to. When it's tied, when it's hanging, fine, then I'm going to allow you. But if not, you're not allowed to. So seemingly, the Gemara wants to answer. We just had 2 brises. One brisa says you're allowed to tell a person to stand to be a wall. You're allowed to tell an animal, you're allowed to tell Kalim to be a wall for you on Sukkot, on Yom Tif and Shabbos, and a different price says you're not allowed to. So the Gemara wants to suggest right now. One is Rav Elazar that says you're not allowed to. One is Chacham says you're allowed to. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? We already learned on that brisa. Everyone agrees. Really, everyone agrees to one of our brisas. Everyone agrees you cannot create this oil, this canopy, this temporary canopy on Yontif. So what is the machlekes of Rav Elazar and Chachamim, whether you're allowed to put up this window shutter or not? v'yitzarech lemer b'Shabbos. Lo nechleku. What is the machlekes? Elo ha'isif. The machlekes is only adding on to a pre-existing building. Everyone agrees you can't make a temporary structure on Shabbos, temporary structure on Yom Tov, which by definition would mean by us you can't put up this wall on Shabbos and Yom Tov. What's the discussion about adding on to the building? Shavli Aimer ein Maisifin. Yom Tov ein tzarich lemer b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to even add on to a building. So it's a different machlekes with about adding on to a building, nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're discussing creating the wall, putting the animal, putting the bed, putting the person to create the wall on Yom Tov. So we're back to our stira. We have a stira on Brises. You're allowed to build this last wall on Sukkos. Says the Gemara, attempt number 2, Eloy Kasha. It's not a question. Hakira Meir, Hakira Yehuda. One is Rav Meir, one is Rav Yehuda. The Tani we learned to the Brisa. Also, lebeima deif in the sukkah. You're allowed to use an animal for the wall of a sukkah. I'm sorry, if you asal lebehema deif in the sukkah, you built a sukkah. People are looking for all different interesting sukkahs ideas this year. First time people are home. Here's a new one. Get a cow, put it up as your wall. Rameir paisel. Rameir says it's no good. Rav Yehuda machshir. Rav Yehuda says it is a kosher wall. Why does Rameir paisel? So Rashi over here explains, because you know why? The animal might go walk away. That's not a sukkah wall. Betsy, the cow, might go walk out. He gets a little hungry. Rav Yehuda says, no, the cow's there. It's okay. Rav Meir, the kapasil. Rav Meir does not allow you to put the animal there as a wall. Hasam over there. Alma loy machitzi. So according to Rav Meir, is Betsy a wall? No. Hacha shari. So now in our case, will Rav Meir allow you to take Betsy and stand her up as a wall? The Gemara says yes. You know why? You're not doing anything. Now, exactly how this is going to work if you're not doing anything, I thought you're creating the sukkah into being a kosher sukkah. The Gemara is going to deal with that in a moment. But again, right now, the Gemara wants to suggest, according to the Bryce that says you're allowed to put the cow there, that's according to Rav Meir, that you're not doing anything. Rav Yehuda to come ma'achshir. Rav Yehuda says that the cow's a good wall. Hasam, in that case, alba machitzi. It's a good wall. Hachasir, in our case, is going to be forbidden. So the Gemara now says, 1 second, let's remind ourselves. The Bryce that we said didn't just talk about Betsy, just the cow. No, it spoke about the cow, it spoke about the bed, it spoke about Kalim, it spoke about human beings. So it says the Gemara, Tizbra, is what you're saying logical? Rav Meir's din was an isolated din about a behema, that he held the cow, it's not a wall. But people and utensils, he never said such a din, those will be a good wall. So, but our Bryce has said all of them together. And furthermore, Rav Meir leave with them on. Who's Rav Meir talking to? If he's going to Rav Eliezer, let's go back. A moment ago we had a brisa regarding building and adding onto a wall in Shabbos. Rav Eliezer was of the opinion you're not even allowed to add on to the wall. So of course Rav Meir wouldn't allow that. So you can tell me, okay, Rav Meir is going according to the opinion of the Rabbanan that you're allowed to add on. But the same question. The Rabbanan never said lechatchila you allowed to add on, you allowed to build a wall on Yom Tov and on Shabbos. So it says the Gemara, you're back to square one, stira and brises. Elo says the Gemara 3 lines to the bottom, Rabbanan, they're both the opinion of the Rabbanan. They kelim like kasha. And you're going to ask me, so how you allowed to put up the kelim as a wall? One brisa says it's a good single wall. You're allowed to. One brisa says it's not a good single wall. Says the Gemara, like kasha habedayfen shlishes habedayfen revi'is. This is what we were alluding to the whole time. One is where it's referring to that you're creating the kashrus of the sukkah. You only have 2 walls. The sukkah is not kosher with 2 walls. You need 2 walls and a little bit. You need a 3rd wall. So when you're creating the 3rd wall, that's when it's not going to be good. When you're creating a 4th wall, you already have a kosher sukkah. What do you want to do? You just want to close up the draft. You just want to add another wall for aesthetic purposes. You just want to add another wall to block the air, but you're not actually creating the kashrus of the sukkah. That's where it's going to be allowed. I'll bring you a proof. Its wall. For its wall, and as you see the last Rashi of here, Rashi says, what is that? Mashmais, it's Masha Doifen, Shehi Muterespa, the wall that is making you mutter. Meaning wall number 3, V'Ravi is Lavi Tikkun Sukkah, the 4th wall is not creating the Sukkah, as we know in Gemara, Sukkah the base, that a Sukkah only needs 3 walls, 2 walls and a little bit. Shema Aminah says the Gemara, that is a wonderful teretz. Moving along to Memdalim and B, says the Gemara, 1 second. You only answered up Kalim HaKalim. You only helped me answering the stira in the cases of the vessels, the cases of the utensils. Now you're going to tell me one is wall 2 and one is wall 3. But says the Gemara, Adam Adam Kasha. Says the Gemara, Adam Adam Nami like Kasha. Kan ledas, kan shalom midas. This is a very important answer. Every answer is important. This is a very important answer in the rules of mechitza b'nei adam and creating this new interesting type of mechitza. Because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, great, I need to carry something over from shul. There's no mechitza. I'll just tell my buddies to make a little walk, circle around me. I'll be able to carry it home. Says the Gemara, no. Kan ledas. When you created a wall by a person, ledas, knowledge, knowingly, it's not a good mechitza. Kan shaloi midas. When you create it without knowing, the people did not know they were creating a wall, that is when it is a good wall. Says Gemara, shaloi midas have. Says Gemara, the question of the Gemara is, but in the case of the Chamir Breda ledas have, so you're going to tell me that case they knew what they were doing? No, they didn't. Shaloi midas have. Rav Chisda mi ledas have. Rav Chisda shaloi mina minyan haya. Says the Gemara. I think I might have read that incorrectly. Let's go one more time. The people they knew what was going on. Answers the Gemara, Shleimi das havai. Ask the Gemara again, he knew about it. Answers the Gemara, I'm not sure if I said it the first time, he was not part of the people that were creating this imaginary wall. So now we know a very important rule. No one should go quick to make these imaginary walls with people, because it only works if the people don't know about it. They don't know they're creating a walls. We'll see a story in the Gemara in a moment, how this could potentially play out. But if they know, if you tell 20 guys, stand around, make me walls so I can carry it, doesn't work. As soon as they know about it, it doesn't work. It only works when they do not know about it. Says the Gemara, Hanu b'nei Genina, there were these people, part of a wedding party, Dilu, Bayim and Mechizish b'nei Adam, that the Ayilu, they brought up water via this creation of a mechitza by people. What are you doing? You weren't allowed to do what you did. You did it knowingly. Everyone knew what they were doing. That doesn't work. It only works if it was shaloi midas, if people do not know what's going on. Hanu Ziki. Another story, there were certain leather flasks, Avishadim Baristika, that they were left in the square of the town of Mechuzah. Ba'adid Asa Rabba, as Rabba was coming, Meipirka, coming back from Shir, he brought it with him. As Rabba was leaving Shir, all the Talmidim were around him. Rabba looked around and said, "Wow, this is great, all the Talmidim are around me. I got imaginary walls, I got human walls." Rabba picked up the leather flasks and brought them home. On another Shabbos, so Rabba again, but now Rabba's Talmidim, the Mishars and the Shamish wanted to bring back the leather flasks. Rabba said, "You can't do it anymore." Now that you know what's going on, it doesn't work for us, and it's going to be forbidden. Levi brought in straw. Ziri brought in Ziri brought in fodder. Maya brought in water. All in this way that they did not know about, and that's going to be the one types of case is going to work. Is if you're in a crowd of people. The case of the Rebbe over here, that's a classic and a common case. The Rosh Hashiva, the Rebbe leaves the shir, and everyone's surrounding around him. All of a sudden, he can realize, I have a walls. Are they here to create walls? No, they're there talking to the Rebbe. They're talking to the Rosh Hashiva, escorting him. So in that case, you potentially have a heter to carry via this method of mechitzas b'nei adam. Says the Mishnah Memdalim amaze me shiata b'rshos. Very, very big sugya coming up. Says the Gemara, don't worry, we're only going to learn a few lines of it. Says the Gemara, someone leaves b'rshos. Someone leaves because they're allowed to leave. This is all childbirth. Someone leaves because of that. This really is also says to do with Rosh Hashanah. The case really was the Gemara over there. The Mishnah over there, as Rashi over here says, they're going out to testify in the new moon, or they're being saved from Goyim, or they're being saved from the river, or a midwife is going out, Hatzalah member is going out of the Chum. So you're allowed to go, and then what happens? They tell you you're too late, they already did it. What's halacha now? Halacha is, says the Mishnah, you still get 2,000 amayis in every direction. Let's say you didn't leave yet. And again, the Gemara is going to talk about all these things. Let's say you didn't leave yet. You're b'tzayich atchom. Kilo yatzit if you didn't leave. Kol hayoytim lahatzil. Chayzil l'merkayim. You got to go back to your place. It's a big sugya with Hatzalah. When they leave, if they find out the call was already taken, are they allowed to come back? They're not allowed to come back with regard to Shabbos. Here it's also Shabbos. But you want to know how far your tchum extends. Let's just begin the Gemara. Really, the Gemara is going to, one of these Gemara is going to flow all the way to somewhere else. So we're just going to make a haschala right now on the Gemara. Says the Gemara, what does it mean? That if he's within the tchum, it's if he never left. What's going on over here? Like Rashi says, what's the case over here? You didn't leave yet? So of course you didn't leave yet. You're in the tchum. You left and you're not in the tchum. What exactly is going on over here? As long as you're within your 2,000 amais, then it's as if you didn't leave your house, dummy. What does that mean? Meaning the tchum goes, your house is in the center, and the tchum is a radius, a circle that goes around your house, diameter 2,000 amos. So if you're within the 2,000 amos, it's as if you never left your house, and you still have that whole 2,000 amos from your house, not from the area where you are right now. Says Gemara Pshita, that's obvious. Mao the tema, so what's the chiddush? I would have thought, akar. Since you got up, so you would have thought the second you got up, that's it, your makom shvisi, your place of dwelling in Shabbos, is no longer in your house. Kamash Malan, no. Kamash Malan says, Rabba, it's still considered like you're in your house, and therefore your tchom, your 2,000 amos will go from your house. One more teretz, Rav Simi Barachia, Amar Achi Kamar. No, the Mishnah means something different. If the new tchum that Chazal gave us was muvla, was overlapping, was swallowed up within your own tchum, it's as if you never left from your tchum. But my kamifli, so what's the machlokes? Marsav laws tchumim milsahi, marsav alav milsahi. This is what we're going to pick up with tomorrow. This is machlokes whether havlo you could swallow up a tchum. Do we say that as long as part of your tchum is still within, then it goes by your whole original tchum, or not? We're going to discuss that idea extensively. I'll pick it up from here tomorrow.